So, this is going to be an interesting one because when you take a look at the multitude of articles that have been published on social media about Tampa Bay Lightning star Steven Stamkos, you seem to start to notice a pattern here. Hey, wait a minute. The possibility of Stamkos becoming an unrestricted free agent seems to be, at this point in time, very real. It's not, 100% he's going to go to free agency, it's not 100% he's going to stay in Tampa, but right now, there are a bunch of pieces on sources like The Athletic and Sportsnet that go out there and discuss the potential movement of Steven Stamkos on the free agent market. Now, we've been talking about Stamkos the entire season, and for good reason, too. The guy had 81 points in 79 games played this season, 2 seasons removed from a 100-point campaign, and he's been a back-to-back 80-point guy ever since. He's still been good, and at 34 years old, making $8.5 million a year, there is a lot of potential for Stamkos to still be a meaningful NHL player, whether it's with the Lightning or otherwise. Which is why, if you head over to one of the later pieces on The Athletic, take a look at this. Steven Stamkos contract projection. How much would it take to land the Lightning superstar UFA? This article goes out there and essentially dials the number up by comparing it to other numbers in the past. Now, I'm not going to screenshot the article, it's behind a paywall. You can read it if you want. The article will be linked in the description. If you have The Athletic, go for it. But the article, spoiler alert, at the very end, like the last sentence says, we don't know how much it's going to take to get it done. But it does say, throughout the middle of the piece, that Stamkos' projected market value is about $8.9 million a year. That is according to Dom Luszczyszyn's athletic model, and yada yada yada. You could talk about whether or not Dom is actually legit or not. But with this in mind, $8.9 million a year, let's go out there and refer to another article published on sportsnet.ca. This one was from May 2nd, so about a week ago, and it was written here by David Morasuti. 5 potential destinations for Steven Stamkos to consider this offseason. This article goes over what Sportsnet is calling the top destinations and fits for Stamkos ahead of free agency. And if you go out there and read, of course, there is Tampa Bay. They are the first team listed here. The Lightning have been in this position before, and you have to think they like their chances to convince Stamkos to remain with the team this time. But if you scroll down and read some of the other teams that are involved here, let's read the assessments done with the Detroit Red Wings. Projected cap space $29.04 million, player signed for next season 13. If there is a person capable of luring Stamkos away from Tampa Bay, it's the man who was the architect of the team's championship core. Steve Yzerman was the GM when Stamkos decided to stay with the Lightning. Yzerman knows what Stamkos brings to the table, and it's the type of player the Red Wings could use in a big way. Yzerman made a big push to get DeBrincat last offseason in order to bolster up Detroit's offense, but he wasn't able to get back to being a 41-goal scorer during his time in Chicago. The article then talks about how when Dylan Larkin was out, there was an entire scoring drought with the team and they needed some extra support, and how Steven Stamkos could be that guy to bring that if he was acquired by the Red Wings. Of course, we're not projecting Dylan Larkin to be injured anytime soon. I mean, he is right now, which is why he's not participating in the World Championships, but the backup could be very useful there. Not the backup like the goaltender, but the backup scoring. Now, we have had the song and dance before. We have talked about Detroit and Steven Stamkos making some sort of a connection there if Stammer wants to reunite with Steve Yzerman. And of course, if you want to talk about the Wings being competitive, you want to talk about them having an edge and potentially being a playoff-worthy team, adding a name like Steven Stamkos, if you're not able to re-sign Patrick Kane, will definitely help. And if you're able to re-sign Patrick Kane, you get Kane and Stamkos on the same team. Yeah, if this was 2010, that team would have been guaranteed to winning the Cup. I'm sorry. But of course, the Red Wings are only one of the 5 teams that are discussed here. Next up, you have yourselves the Montreal Canadiens. If there is a chance that Stamkos hits the open market, Kent Hughes and company should be one of the first teams to call Stamkos' agent for a meeting with the perennial goal scorer. There are several areas where Stamkos would improve this Canadiens team, including their below-average power play, which was ranked 26th in the NHL at 17%. Montreal is also in need of more goal scoring this season, with Nick Suzuki leading the team with 33 goals and only 3 players putting up 20 or more goals. Of course, the Canadiens also have a major asset within the organization who could help the team persuade Stamkos in head coach Martin St. Louis and Vincent Lecavalier. It is no secret that St. Louis is someone Stamkos has a lot of respect for from their time together in Tampa. The Canadiens should have roughly $17.4 million in cap space once they place Carey Price on LTIR, And that should be enough for the team to consider taking a swing on Stamkos and make some other moves. Some will wonder if it would be the right move for a team like the Canadiens to make a play for a high-priced free agent while they are in a rebuild, but at some point Montreal will have to make a push to return to the playoffs. And with Montreal, this is one of those situations where there kind of is no downside. Like, sure, Stamkos could be old, he doesn't align with the timeline of the team, yada yada yada, but like, at some point the Canadiens gotta get competitive again, and this might be that opportunity. So, I for one would personally really like to see it if Steven Stamkos made it over to Montreal, have that Le Cavalier-St. Louis connection sparked up once again. I love to see that. But then we have ourselves another team that is talked about in this Sportsnet piece as another one of these top destinations. It's the Nashville Predators. Take a look at this. Just when it looked like the Predators were going to take a step back with GM Barry Trotz in charge, they were a surprise team that went on a big second-half run to secure a wildcard spot. There are still glaring problems on this roster, and that was made clear with some of the players they added at the deadline in Jason Zucker and Beauvillier. While some may be concerned about Stamkos' age and injury history when it comes to making a sizable commitment to him in free agency, the Preds are in a position where they need to add a premium goal scorer. Forsberg had a career year where he put up 48 goals and 94 points, but next on the list was Ryan O'Reilly with 26. This is a team that's been trying to turn a new leaf offensively after buying out Duchesne and Johansson last offseason, and it's going to be tough for them to rely on Gustav Nyquist to replicate his production after scoring 23 goals and 75 points when he never had more than 60 points in a single season before. In the playoffs, the Preds are relying on goal scoring by committee, with Forsberg leading the way at 2 goals, so having a player like Stamkos who had 5 through 5 games would be a welcomed addition. Looking at their cap structure for next season, the Preds don't have any big-name free agents to worry about, but there will be some questions on what they do with Saros, who will be a free agent after 24-25. Considering they have Yaroslav Askarov waiting in the wings, could they gauge the trade market to see if a team is willing to pay up for Saros, or deciding if it's worth to keep him around? There is no doubt Stamkos would help this team, not just with his ability to put the puck in the net, but also adding another leader to the fold. And hey, believe me, as a Canucks fan who had just watched the Predators play off in 6 games, I do not want to see Stamkos going over there. That would just make that team so much more difficult to play against, and better. In a way, you could say it makes sense, because it's like, okay, Stamkos is really old. But the Preds have a bunch of guys that are kind of in their primes and getting older as well, so if you wanted to really force a potential playoff berth and success in the postseason, then maybe try pairing Stamkos up with Josi, Forsberg, Nyquist, and all those other old aging veterans on that team. I feel like that actually aligns more than some of the other conversations we've had like Detroit or Montreal, so I did think it was very interesting that Nashville was being brought up as an option here. And then if you go over to the bottom of the article, it says at the end here, a dark horse destination, Toronto. The Maple Leafs made a push to go after Stamkos before. Maybe they can get it done the second time around. Who really knows? Obviously, the Leafs have several needs to consider this offseason, especially if they're unable to turn things around and lose in the first round. Yeah, nope, this article is old. They did. I'll interject here with this. If the Toronto Maple Leafs find a way to get rid of JT and Mitch Marner, and they have all this extra money to spend in free agency, Steven Stamkos and Austin Matthews on the same team would be lethal. I'm not saying they both put up 60 goals beside each other, but there would be a very nice sort of 1-2 sniper combo on both of the lines and on both wings on the power play. Like, all of a sudden you have to pay attention to the opposite flank as well. It's not JT on that side anymore. It's Steven Stamkos. It would be absolutely insane, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this $8.9 million top destinations conversation. What do you think about the idea of Stamkos going over to Nashville, Montreal, Detroit, or Toronto? Out of these 4 teams, which one do you think is the one you want the most, and which one do you think is the most likely? Do you think the $8.9 million is a number that gets it done, or do you think it lies in different territory? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as well if you're a Lightning fan. Let me know as well how much this video pissed you off, because I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, they always seem to, but thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.